Most people never succeed because they think like everyone else. But the moment you begin thinking like successful people, everything changes. Not someday, instantly. Because success doesn't start with luck or talent or who you know. It starts with a thought. A powerful, disciplined, elevated thought that refuses to conform. Want success? Then you must train your mind to think differently. This is how successful people think, and this is why they win. Most people approach life with a mindset rooted in limitation. They see the world through a narrow lens, focusing on everything they don't have, everything that could go wrong, and every obstacle in their way. But successful people are wired differently. They don't live within boundaries. They operate through a lens of possibility. When others say, that's not realistic, they say, what if it is? That simple shift in perspective changes everything, because the way you think determines what you see, and what you see determines what you believe is possible for you. When you think in limitation, you shut down your potential before it even has a chance to take shape. You hear a great idea and immediately start listing reasons it won't work. You stop yourself before you even begin. That kind of thinking is a trap, and it keeps millions of people stuck in the same place year after year. But when you think in terms of possibility, your mind starts looking for ways forward. You begin asking the right questions. How can I make this work? What's one small step I can take right now? Who can help me get there? These questions unlock a creative force within you that limitation-based thinking can never access. Successful people are not more intelligent than everyone else. They just ask better questions. They've trained their minds to seek possibility even in the face of failure or uncertainty. When something doesn't work, they don't interpret it as the end. They see it as feedback. They ask, what can I learn from this? They aren't defeated by difficulty. They are motivated by it. They understand that almost every breakthrough is born out of what once looked impossible. The airplane, the light bulb, the internet, none of these things existed until someone chose to believe they could. Possibility thinkers live with that same belief. They know that just because something hasn't been done before doesn't mean it can't be done. It just means they get to be the first. There's a powerful psychological effect that happens when you consistently think in terms of what's possible. Your brain begins to rewire itself. It starts tuning out doubt and tuning into solutions. This isn't wishful thinking. It's neuroscience. When you feed your mind possibility, it forms new neural pathways that allow you to recognize opportunity more quickly and act on it more confidently. The people you admire, the ones who build incredible businesses, lead movements, or live extraordinary lives, didn't wait for permission to think big. They developed the mental habit of choosing possibility over fear, creativity over compliance, courage over comfort. That mindset becomes contagious. When you're around someone who thinks in possibility, you feel inspired. They make you believe more is available. And when you start living that way, you give others permission to do the same. It's not just about you succeeding. It's about creating a ripple effect. But none of it happens until you stop thinking like the masses. The masses play defense. They protect what little they have and never reach for more. Successful people play offense. They build, they create, they stretch, and they grow because their minds are constantly focused on what could be. They live with the belief that there is always a way forward, even if they don't see it yet. That's the power of possibility-based thinking. It's not about ignoring reality. It's about refusing to be limited by it. Successful people understand the delicate balance between having a long-term vision and executing with urgency in the short term. They don't just drift through life hoping things will work out someday. They have a crystal clear picture of what they want their future to look like, and they reverse engineer their daily actions to align with that vision. While others are caught up in short-term distractions, chasing quick wins or temporary comfort, successful individuals keep their eyes on a bigger picture. They know that greatness is never achieved in a day. It's built over time through consistent effort, discipline, and intentional decisions made moment by moment. This ability to zoom out and see the long game gives them clarity. It removes the noise. It helps them prioritize. While the average person may be reactive, constantly responding to whatever is urgent or popular in the moment, successful people stay rooted in what actually matters. Their long-term vision becomes a filter through which they evaluate every opportunity, every relationship, and every decision. If it doesn't move them closer to where they want to be, they let it go. That clarity eliminates confusion and fuels momentum because every day becomes a step toward a bigger goal. But they don't just sit around waiting for the future to arrive. They act with intensity and urgency in the present. They treat every day like it matters because they know it does. Time is not just money to them. It's leverage. It's power. It's the one resource you can never get back. That awareness drives them to work while others are distracted, to improve while others are complacent. They wake up early, they stay focused, and they move with purpose, not because someone is watching, but because they know the cost of wasting time. One of the biggest traps people fall into is thinking they have more time than they do. They say things like, "I'll start next month," or "I'll get serious when things settle down." But successful people don't live in that fantasy. They know there will never be a perfect time. Life will always be chaotic. The world will always be full of noise and distraction. So they stop waiting and start building now. They understand that the long term is created one short-term decision at a time. If you want to have a successful business 5 years from now, you have to be making the right moves today. If you want to be in great health 10 years from now, you have to be showing up and doing the work this morning. There is no future without the present. What sets successful people apart is not just that they have a vision, it's that they bring that vision into every action they take. When they send an email, make a phone call, study a subject, or invest in a skill, they're not doing it mindlessly. They're doing it with full awareness of how it fits into the bigger picture. They're not just grinding, they're building. And that sense of purpose gives their work energy. It gives them resilience when things get hard. It gives them the drive to keep going when progress is slow. Even in the face of setbacks, they stay grounded. They don't panic when something doesn't go according to plan. They adjust, they learn, they keep moving forward because they've already decided who they're becoming. They're not chasing outcomes. They're aligning their identity with their vision. That alignment creates power. It gives them a calm kind of intensity, a seriousness, a sense of mission, and that's what allows them to rise while others stagnate. Successful people think like owners, not victims. They don't wait for someone else to fix their lives, create opportunities for them, or give them permission to move forward. They understand that everything starts with ownership, taking full responsibility for their choices, their mindset, their reactions, and their results. While many people blame their circumstances, their past, or the people around them, successful individuals look inward. They ask, what can I control? What can I change? What can I learn? That mindset is what gives them power, because the moment you shift responsibility to someone else, you also give away your ability to change your life. People who think like victims tend to dwell on how unfair things are. They complain, they criticize, and they stay stuck. They believe life is happening to them, not for them. That belief system robs them of energy and drive. It makes them passive, reactive, and bitter. But successful people reframe everything. Even when they face hardship or injustice, they refuse to let it define them. They say, this is hard, but I'll rise through it. I'll grow from this. I'll become stronger, wiser, and more focused. They use adversity as fuel. They know that ownership doesn't mean you're to blame for everything that happens to you. It means you are responsible for how you respond and what you do next. That level of mental maturity is rare, but it's essential for growth. Life will throw things at you that you didn't expect and don't deserve. Successful people feel the pain, but they don't sit in it forever. They get back up, they recalibrate, they take action, they ask better questions. While others are stuck saying, why is this happening to me? Successful people ask, what am I supposed to do with this? That one shift changes the entire trajectory of a person's life. Because no matter how difficult the situation, they always find a way forward. They don't wait for a rescue, they become the rescue. This ownership mindset also makes them trustworthy leaders. People follow them because they lead by example. They don't just talk about responsibility, they embody it. When they make a mistake, they own it. When they fail, they study it. When they succeed, they keep learning. They're not addicted to praise, and they're not afraid of criticism. They don't need validation from the outside because they're rooted in discipline and self-respect. That's the kind of character that wins over time. It builds momentum, loyalty, and influence. Another thing that separates them is how they handle excuses. Excuses don't survive in their world. They understand that every excuse is a wall between them and the life they want. So they tear those walls down. They stop saying things like, I don't have time, or I'm not ready. Instead, they find the time. They get ready, they do what needs to be done, whether they feel like it or not. That internal accountability becomes their superpower. It keeps them honest with themselves, it keeps them sharp, it keeps them moving. Even when others betray them, doubt them, or try to pull them down, they stay focused because they're not trying to control other people. They're focused on controlling their own behavior, their own consistency, and their own standards. That mindset makes them unstoppable. They don't rely on luck. They rely on discipline. They don't wait to be saved. They save themselves. They rise, not because life is easy, but because they've decided that no matter what happens, they will not be owned by excuses, fear, or the past. They will lead their own lives with strength, with integrity, and with relentless determination. Successful people have learned to think with strategy, not emotion. They do not let feelings dictate their actions because they understand that emotions are temporary, but consequences are lasting. While most people are reactive, making choices based on anger, frustration, fear, or even excitement, those who win at life pause and think before they move. They are not cold or unfeeling, but they have developed emotional discipline. They still feel everything, but they don't act on everything they feel. That difference is what keeps them stable, focused, and in control when others spiral, overreact, or give up too soon. In life, emotions are always present. There will be days when you feel tired, days when you feel disrespected, days when you feel like nothing is working. Most people let those days dictate their behavior. They say, I'm not in the mood, and stop showing up. They make impulsive decisions that damage relationships, businesses, or reputations. But successful people step back and ask themselves, what does this situation actually require? They don't let temporary feelings destroy long-term goals. They choose discipline over drama. That ability to step outside of emotion and think with strategy allows them to remain consistent when it matters most. When something triggers them, they don't immediately react. They observe, they analyze, they respond with intention. This is not suppression, it's leadership, it's maturity, it's self-mastery. They know that a single emotional decision can undo years of progress, so they protect their focus like it's sacred. They know how to delay gratification, how to breathe through conflict, how to detach when needed, and how to operate based on values, not moods. They're not carried by emotional highs, and they're not broken by emotional lows. They stay even, centered, and aware. This way of thinking also helps them play the long game. They're not just trying to win the argument, they're trying to win the outcome. They don't blow up bridges just to feel powerful in the moment. They think, what do I want 5 years from now? What kind of person am I becoming? Will this reaction serve my future? Those questions guide their actions. They make strategic moves, not emotional outbursts. That's why they build better relationships, close better deals, and make better decisions in pressure-filled moments. They are calm under fire, not because they don't feel the heat, but because they've trained their minds to focus on the mission. They also know that emotions lie. Just because you feel like quitting doesn't mean you should. Just because you feel disrespected doesn't mean the situation is worth destroying. Just because you feel stuck doesn't mean you actually are. Successful people know that emotion is information, but it's not always accurate. They use emotion as a signal to check in, but not as a green light to act without thinking. They combine intuition with intelligence, instinct with analysis, and passion with perspective. That blend makes them powerful, sharp, and calculated. This discipline spills over into how they handle criticism and praise. They don't get inflated when people applaud them, and they don't crumble when people judge them. They stay rooted in their mission. Their identity is not built on approval. It's built on purpose. So they don't chase emotional validation. They chase excellence. And because they stay focused on what truly matters, they can make bold moves without second-guessing themselves every step of the way. They remain unshaken in storms because they aren't living by emotion. They're driven by vision, by principle, and by purpose. Successful people build their environment with intention. They don't leave it to chance because they know that environment is not just a backdrop, it's a shaping force. It molds your habits, influences your mindset, and either fuels your ambition or drains your energy. They are hyper aware of what and who they surround themselves with because they understand that proximity is power. If you spend time with people who are negative, complacent, or constantly making excuses, that energy rubs off on you. Even if you're strong-minded, that environment chips away at your drive over time. But if you surround yourself with winners, people who are disciplined, focused, growing, and pushing forward, your standards rise automatically. They curate their circle carefully. It's not about being judgmental. It's about being intentional. They don't spend time around people just because they've known them forever. They don't stay in toxic relationships out of guilt or habit. They evaluate whether the people around them are aligned with the life they're building. If someone is always complaining, gossiping, or focused on problems instead of solutions, they create space, not out of hate, but out of respect for their own mission. They don't need constant drama. They need clarity, momentum, and energy, and they guard that energy fiercely. But it's not just people. Successful individuals also control the physical spaces they occupy. Their home, their office, their digital space, everything is designed to support focus and growth. They don't leave clutter around because clutter creates mental noise. They keep things clean, organized, and calm because they know chaos breeds distraction. Even their phones and screens are set up with purpose. Notifications are off. Time-wasting apps are removed. They eliminate anything that pulls their attention away from what matters. They're not relying on willpower alone. They're designing a world that helps them win. Habits are formed by cues. When you're in an environment filled with temptation, it's only a matter of time before you give in. Successful people make sure their environments are filled with the right cues. Books that inspire them, tools that support their productivity, reminders of their goals, structures that reinforce discipline. They don't hope to stay focused. They make it easier to stay focused. They don't try to rely on motivation every single day. They create an environment where motivation is built into the structure of their life. They also choose their mentors and digital inputs with care. What they listen to, what they read, what they consume online, all of it is filtered. They know that their mind is like a garden, and whatever they feed it will grow. If they feed it negativity, drama, and noise, they'll produce anxiety and confusion. But if they feed it wisdom, strategy, and inspiration, they'll produce clarity and confidence. So they protect their mental environment as strongly as their physical one. They choose content that stretches them, challenges them, and forces them to think bigger. They don't scroll mindlessly. They consume with intention. One of the most powerful things they do is create routines and rituals that ground them. Morning routines that set the tone, evening rituals that bring calm and reflection. These are not random habits. They're environmental anchors. They keep the mind sharp, the body steady, and the vision clear. Even when life gets hectic, those routines bring them back to center. It's structure that builds freedom. The more intentional the environment, the more powerful the person becomes, because they're no longer reacting to the world, they're creating it. They are not products of their surroundings, they are architects of it. Successful people have mastered the art of delayed gratification. They understand that real results, lasting success, and meaningful impact take time. In a world that promotes speed, shortcuts, and overnight wins, they play a longer game. While others chase instant pleasure and quick validation, successful people are patient, disciplined, and strategic. They know that every short-term decision compounds into long-term outcomes, so they resist the urge to take the easy route when the harder path leads to greater reward. This mindset separates those who dabble from those who dominate. Because the truth is, most people want success, but very few are willing to wait, sacrifice, and work through the boring, invisible, and thankless stages that come before the breakthrough. They are not driven by dopamine hits or fleeting excitement. They are driven by mission. That mission keeps them grounded during the long nights, the slow seasons, and the periods when there is no applause, no recognition, and no visible progress. They understand that every seed needs time to root before it blooms. So while the world rushes, they remain steady. They take consistent, purposeful action even when the results don't show up immediately. This ability to delay gratification gives them emotional strength. It gives them clarity and confidence in their journey because they're not chasing quick wins. They're building something that lasts. Successful people also understand that patience isn't passive, it's active. It means doing the work with faith. It means showing up without needing immediate results to feel validated. It means continuing to plant, water, and nurture even when nothing seems to be growing. That's a rare kind of endurance. It's easy to work hard when you see quick progress. It's much harder to stay consistent when the reward is far off. But that's where success is built, in the silence, in the slow grind, in the hidden work no one sees. That's where habits are formed, resilience is tested, and character is developed. Delayed gratification also affects how they spend their time and money. Instead of blowing resources on comfort or status, they invest in growth. They pass on distractions so they can double down on development. They skip the night out to finish the project. They reinvest their earnings into new skills, new tools, or better systems. They trade now for later, not because they don't want to enjoy life, but because they want to earn a life they'll never need to escape from. Their discipline today buys them freedom tomorrow. And they understand that if you don't sacrifice for what you want becomes the sacrifice. It's not that they don't enjoy rewards, they just don't let the pursuit of pleasure become the reason they lose their progress. They are strategic with their indulgences. They celebrate wins, but they don't get lost in them. They take breaks, but not forever. They enjoy, then return, because they know the moment you start prioritizing comfort over purpose, you begin to slip. Their identity isn't wrapped up in how fast they get there, it's rooted in how well they build. They trust the process even when it's slow. They respect the grind even when it's quiet. And they stay loyal to their vision even when distractions try to seduce them. This level of focus requires mental toughness. The world is full of temptations, but successful people train themselves to say no more than they say yes. They live with vision, not impulse. They aren't looking for the path of least resistance. They're looking for the path of greatest alignment. That's what keeps them in the game long after others have quit. They understand that while everyone wants the reward, very few are willing to wait and work through the wilderness to earn it. But they always are. And that's why they win. You don't need to be born with greatness. You don't need more luck, more followers, more applause. You just need a new mind. Success is built one thought at a time, one belief at a time, one disciplined, focused, strategic mindset repeated daily. The world isn't waiting for another excuse. It's waiting for someone who finally decides to think differently, to think like the few, to think like the successful. And when you do that, when you shift your thinking, you don't just change your results, you change your destiny.